Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
All right.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham, and today I've got my very dear friend, Dr. Celestine Chukumba. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, listen, so we're going to jump right into it because you are so impressive. The first time that I met you, maybe 7-8 years ago, I think you were running, a friend of ours, you were running their campaign, and I got a chance to know that you have your Ph.D. in entrepreneurship.
It's actually in economics and econometrics.
Okay, and so what does that mean, man?
Basically I'm an economist.
Okay.
But my focus is really on the statistics of economics as well.
Yes. And so you got your Ph.D. from where? Notre Dame?
That's right, University of Notre Dame.
And so tell us that whole process as to how you became at University of Notre Dame.
My dad actually was a professor at the college in New Jersey.
Yes. For
30 years. Yes. So education was always something that was very important in my family. And I pretty much, took after his ilk after graduating from high school, went to Rutgers, and then from there did a master's at the New School for Research in New York City. Was working in the Manhattan area for a couple years, and then from there went to the University of Notre Dame to do my PhD.
Wow! And so, what is your specialty in terms of your PhD? What was your dissertation on?
My dissertation actually was on technology transfer from the university to private industry. So there was something called the Bayh-Dole Act of 1980 that allowed universities to actually own their technology transfer. So basically what you saw happen after that were a bunch of Facebooks and Googles and other different types of platforms that immediately came out of the university because professors were allowed to actually own their inventions. So that pretty much brought in what we see as the modern era for inventions, where most of what you see today comes out of a university.
So let me see if I understand this. So a lot of these professors were creating inventions or technologies on their school time, but because of this new act, they were still allowed to monetize it on their own.
That's right.
And the school never wanted to take a percentage?
The schools actually, in some cases, get a percentage as well. And so, what was happening was before this act, there seemed to be a glut of technology.
Yes.
Where there were inventions that were promising, but they would sit on the shelf in a professor's desk somewhere and never actually come to fruition. And so what this act did was it made professors really incentivized to actually take their technology and take their ideas and make them come to life.
Now, I am going to get this wrong, but I know you're going to correct me. The greatest story that comes to my mind where universities are taking, owning, and controlling technology is the Bose speaker concept, correct? Because I think Bose was created at Harvard.
There are so many. I mean, you can think of, you can go back to Gatorade, for example.
Okay.
Right? That was a drink that was created in a university setting to help the athletes get an edge.
Yes.
And here we have it today. You've got, the iRobot, things of that nature that came out of the university as well. I mean, there are just so many that they're too numerous to mention. So
having said all of that, what has been your entrepreneurial breakout? What have been your focus for entrepreneurship?
So let me back up then, I guess, from getting my PhD at the University of Notre Dame.
Yes.
I taught at Penn State for a couple of years.
Boo.
Yeah, I hear you. We're not going to get into that. But I had a cushy tenure track position.
Yes.
For a couple of years. But after sort of learning what academia was like, I thought, you know what, I can make more money elsewhere.
Yes.
And I abruptly, after starting a technology at the University of Notre Dame, at Penn State, that was pretty cutting edge. This was around the time where Napster was out.
Yes.
I was a professor at Penn State, and I also was working on a platform called collegedj.net that I created. That was a digital sharing platform as well for college DJs. So that became much more successful than I thought. And I quickly left Penn State to sort of do all things digital. While I was working on that site, I landed a job at an agency in New York City. And of course, what happened actually was, the agency would use me to help them get clients, and I would pretty much work with the clients and turn their accounts around. And they pretty much wanted me to be the one who was doing the work for them. So, after a couple of years of doing that for other agencies, I knew it was pretty much time for me to do it on my own.
Yes.
And since about 2008, I've been running my own digital media agency, InterSearchMedia. And of course, that's kind of where we met, where I've been helping political people, e-commerce websites, musicians, pretty much the gambit. Anything related to making people make more money on the internet or via social media, my firm can do it for you.
So give me an example as to how that process would work. So I am a musician. I've got a DJing platform. I come to you. How does InterSearchMedia make me go bigger?
I'll give you another example.
Okay.
I have right now I'm working on a luxury e-commerce website.
Yes.
And I do their digital marketing in terms of their Google advertising as well as their Facebook advertising.
Yes.
And their Instagram. So, I'm the one who helps them spend their budget and figure out which ways and which mediums are going to bring them the most conversion.
Okay. So that means you are creating algorithms that, based on their demographics of what they want, you're going to show them how to best spend their money in that area.
Kind of. I'm working with algorithms and working with technology. All these things that I'm doing now are highly automated, whereas I used to have to do these things by hand. But yeah, I'm working with technology that helps me sort of figure out, based on the client's needs and their spend and their budget, where we can maximize spend that's going to bring in the most revenue. So, for example, this client is selling, high fashion shoes and sneakers. Some of these sneakers are about, $500, $600 a pop.
Yes.
What audience do we need to serve these ads to that is going to bring us the most bang for the buck, right? What platform should we use? Should we use, Pinterest? Should we use Instagram? Should we use Google? And what, how should we allocate that spend? What percentage should we spend on these different platforms? That's pretty much what I help them navigate. Okay.
And just out of curiosity, what was the demographic breakdown in terms of who you should be targeting these ads towards?
That's what we would in the marketing business call the secret sauce.
Yes.
which I cannot give you.
Oh, what? But I'm
No, I'm just kidding. No, it really depends on the product. There really isn't a one size
I understand,
fits all.
but I'm just saying, using the example of the $500 to $600 sneaker,
Okay.
who is more than likely to be a part of the demographics for that in terms of who you would, try to allocate some marketing dollars towards?
You know what? It depends. I'll put it to you like this. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There are certain cities
Yes.
where I would target first.
Okay.
I'll put it to you like that.
Okay.
So
Is that still more of the secret sauce that you can't get into?
yeah, that's a little bit of the secret sauce.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say there are cities that I'd like to target first, and then what I also do is I look at what my competitors are doing.
Got you.
And for the most part, I have technology that will allow me to see what some of my competitor companies are doing, and then I can test different strategies out. But I'd start out with a sort of a city approach,
Yes.
and then throw a little bit of a net out there and see what kind of fish come into my net. And then
Okay.
what I would focus on after that would be a remarketing and a retargeting campaign where, maybe you came to the site, but you didn't buy something, and we serve an ad to you to kind of tap you on the shoulder maybe a few days later and remind you,
Okay.
you had those $500 sneakers in your cart,
Yes.
or you came and saw those $500 sneakers. Perhaps you may want to come back, or what? How about a 10% discount on those
wow.
sneakers, right? So there are lots of ways to market people that are fairly savvy nowadays. So
Okay.
there isn't really one size fits all.
Now let me ask this question, Doc. So
Mhm.
where do you see, and I want to come back to this other question, where do you see the industry, your industry, going 5 years, 10 years from now?
AI.
Wow. Artificial
yeah.
intelligence. Wow. Say more
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I think that right now we're getting to a point in the digital marketing world where artificial intelligence is going to help people who know what they're doing
Yes.
get that sort of marginal extra benefit from putting that data into an AI platform that can help automate the process even further. So, there are a lot of people right now who are saying that they're doing AI,
Yes.
but they're really not doing it. To really do AI well, you have to know variables and you have to know functions and how to manipulate data and, perhaps do regressions where that one thing is causing another, right? And so, to do AI well, you're going to either need to have some coding prowess or some statistics, and acumen to sort of get you over the edge.
Now,
So I think that's what's going to separate the good marketing, the good digital marketers, the good media marketers from the rest.
now, you know what came to my mind, Doc, while you were telling me that? In my mind came as such. An avatar, understanding what your buying habits were, and based on your command, your avatar is working and searching out the various sites on his or her own. That's what I thought you were talking about. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's far advanced, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, from a marketing perspective, assume that there is sort of this, as the economist Adam Smith likes to say, sort of this invisible hand
Yes.
that is not an avatar, but even when you Google things, right, you get auto suggestions, right?
Yes.
Right, like so data is being captured about what you might like to do at all times of the day,
Okay.
and whether we can call it sort of a virtual avatar or not, there are definitely people like myself who are collecting that data
Okay.
and using it to market to you effectively.
Okay.
And I think in the early days, people were very concerned about personal information in a way where people would see an ad. They went to the Nike.com site, and next thing you know, they saw a pair of Air Jordans on another site, and they would freak out.
Yeah.
I mean, now we've become quite used to that, and
Yes.
so you can expect now that when that's on steroids, if you will,
Yes.
you're going to have people really getting highly catered content and ads that are going to really convert much better and not be a waste of the user's time.
Now, I mean, you're highly trained. What does that look like for the average person who is not highly trained, such as yourself? How does he or she fit into this industry?
I think that's a great question. I think that, if you think about what we need to do as leaders in sort of our own community,
yes,
we need to think about the skills that are going to be necessary for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years.
Yes.
And, even if you're not going to go out there and get a PhD, I would posit that the new jobs in the next 10, 20 years don't really need one anyway.
Okay.
You can go to a technical school for a year and learn how to do coding.
Okay.
And be better off than many people out there who don't have such skills. I mean, actually, to be honest, I actually started my professional career coding when I was about 16.
Wow.
I was in something called Inroads,
yes,
which was a minority mentorship program. And
yes.
so I was doing coding in a program called COBOL and C.
Okay.
Back in the day. And
Yes.
so what we need, and what that did actually, I mean, I didn't know later that I'd be doing some of that kind of stuff now, but it helped me think in a linear fashion, right? It helped me to write my own if-then statements, if you will,
Okay.
and kind of come up with my own logic. So I think that what we're going to have to do is start thinking seriously about, giving the younger generation access to some of these tools like coding, and like letting them see, behind sort of these platforms like Google and Facebook and how they work, because these are going to be, the jobs of the future.
So the natural progression for you was you saw your father being in higher up academia and you wanted to pursue such. But so let's
Right.
say a young student in the urban community, they don't have that mentoring, they don't have that ability to look at someone. How do you suggest we push them in that direction?
It's tough because, I can't really say that's my expertise, but, one of the things I think that is definitely very helpful is some of what, you've done, which is, the mentoring.
Yes.
And for kids who don't know, where can I go to learn how to code?
Yes.
I don't think that is all the time the issue. Some of these kids are ultra savvy. They're
Yes.
on the internet creating crazy TikToks and shorts and videos and memes and all these things. And they have a much more digital acumen than people think. It's just that where's our energy being spent?
Yes.
And are people saying, hey, if you can make a video where you can cut up sound and video and put it on social media for fun, why not work somewhere and get paid to do it?
Yes.
Right. And so, we need to be pushing those who have some basic skills into places where they can expand them. And, that is where I think some of these things like vocational schools, technical schools, community colleges, those are going to sort of fill that void if people take them seriously.
Would you ever consider coming back into that space and be a leader of such for that?
Only if invited and, on my terms. I mean, academia has its pluses and minuses.
Yes.
For someone who has sort of that thinking out of the box entrepreneurial spirit. So, for me, I've done some work for the College of New Jersey, actually, for a couple of years, helping them with doing some adjunct work for them. But in general, I really like to focus on my company and try and get that to grow.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question outside of your company before we move into the next question. Would it be in Trenton's or in any urban area's best interest to have like a urban incubator where coding could be taught on a out of the box type of methodology?
Yeah, these are the kinds of things that I've tried
Yeah.
very hard through various mechanisms and administrations to try to see if we could get going in this area where, if we could have sort of a research triangle approach to what we're doing here. And I know we have something like Einstein's Alley around here, but that's not being used to its fullest potential. I mean, and what you really need here would be, and it wouldn't take much to get this done. And I've sort of floated this issue to those who matter.
Yes.
But if we could have someone like a Twitter open a headquarters here, right?
Yes.
And what would that take, right?
Yes.
7 employees, right? I mean, and think of their average salary, right? How much that might actually go into the economy, right? So
absolutely.
What you have to think about are like what places like Detroit did. What did Detroit do? We're not going to be the car manufacturing capital anymore, so we're going to become a technology hub, right? And these are the kinds of things that if cities are trying to improve their economic prowess and do it in a way where there's going to be an exponential sort of effort that is generated as a result of that being done, I would say that the technology community has to be developed in any city. And so, if you look at places like Brooklyn, who have come back, places like Camden who have come back,
absolutely,
technology is leading the way. And these are things that you don't need big buildings.
Yes.
You don't need, a lot of trucks coming in and out. They don't take too much traffic and they don't cause too much pollution. It just takes people to actually care. And you actually need someone who is sort of leading the entrepreneurial effort to do that. Like if you don't have a head of entrepreneurship for your town, city, or county or what have you, that's going out and literally trying to do these deals and talking this talk, it's not going to get done.
Have you tried to approach someone in our current administration to consider?
I'm a very, very busy guy. So
Understood.
I mean, people pretty much know where I stand.
Okay.
I don't have to approach anyone. I mean, I kind of wrote the book technically on this stuff, so they kind of should be approaching me.
Okay, I'm approaching you.
Yeah, and I've been willing to help you I have in the past.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And,
No.
I definitely think that forget administrations. We have to do this on our own.
Got you.
And if we're looking for administrations or for without there being some sort of private partnership kind of getting this done, we're really kind of asking those who we want to fish with to teach us how to fish.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I've always been one to say if we could not leverage all of our private capital, I would be willing to do a public-private venture. But again, I don't know if we have the administration that has the vision to see such like that. I mean, they see the vision for such on other things, but when it comes to pure entrepreneurial engagement, I don't know if they see it as such. But going back to your business, your clients that you service vary in terms of size and in terms of need. How many employees do you have that allows you to facilitate that?
So I pretty much run the show. I use a couple of people with regularity that I work with as consultants.
Okay.
So my team is, I would say a full-time team of about 2. If you add my contractors.
Wait.
But, I pretty much.
Or 2? Like
2,
2? Like 1, 2?
That's right.
Wow.
That's like me and a half of a couple other people.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, for the most part, I'm a boutique agency and, therefore I only take a certain amount of clients at one time.
Understood.
And, for the most part, I outsource a lot of the work that I think can be done elsewhere. And then I focus much more on the strategy and sort of the top level.
Got you. Now again, if you can, where are the hottest places in the country and in the world for technological development?
Well,
Is that too broad of a question?
I can tell you one thing.
Okay.
If we're talking about the United States,
Yes.
people are leaving the Northeast.
Are you you're saying between D.C. and New York, that's considered a hotbed now?
I would say between D.C. and New York, they're losing to the Floridas and the Texases of the world.
Why so?
No, they're welcoming entrepreneurship in those places, and the high taxes of New York City and New Jersey are just not cutting it anymore.
Okay.
And then I guess after the last couple of years of the pandemic, those types of states are a bit more open, and people want to live there.
Wow. So you're saying the southern states right now are the hotbed for entrepreneurial activity and technology.
That's a fact. I mean, Austin, Texas right now is booming.
Wow.
Booming. Florida, booming. Atlanta, booming.
Okay.
And, it's not the sticks anymore.
Yeah.
There are a lot of companies that, even actually since 9/11, you've seen a diversity of manufacturing and industry leaving the Northeast and sort of those concentrated areas.
Yes.
But definitely since the pandemic, we've seen that these areas are, I think New Jersey actually this last year or two lost more millionaires and billionaires in history.
What? Because of the pandemic and moving down south?
Taxes and pandemic restrictions of all kinds, and the opportunity to kind of do whatever you want down south at a cheaper price with the sun shining on your head.
Yeah. Now, where else in the world are good places for technology to take place?
Africa.
Wait. Say more about that. Talk to me. Say
more Africa.
Where in Africa?
I think, and I speak with, of course, a bias being, a Nigerian American.
Yes.
But Nigeria is definitely a place that is becoming another hub for technology. South Africa has always had a sort of a technology hub and, a entrepreneurial spirit. But definitely there are places that are popping up elsewhere that should be under consideration. Of course, India has always been strong.
Yes.
So I think that when you look outside of the U.S., the world is kind of catching up to some degree. I recently, before the pandemic, went to Nigeria, got out of the airport and hopped in an Uber.
Wow. Right.
So, that kind of disruptive technology is happening around the world. So, I definitely think that people should consider the globe when looking for technology opportunities.
Okay. Now, in terms of schooling, what should a young person be looking at if he or she, again, you mentioned maybe not so much going to school, but looking at a technical school. But if someone wanted to further their career academically, what should he or she be looking for out of school if they wanted to engage, I guess, further in entrepreneurial activity?
It's tough. It's tough. Okay. It's it really depends on the person, yes, right, and what their desire is and what they're strong at. And there are some people for which school just isn't their thing.
Okay.
And college might not be their thing. And for those who it may be, they may find that they're not getting the skills that give them an entrepreneurial edge.
Yes.
They may be reading their textbooks, but not actually learning how to actually put a company together, how to write a business plan, right?
Very true.
And if they're a computer science major, they may not learn how to write a business plan, right? So, so it really depends. But, in general, I'd say there is an advantage to being able to at least go online and look around, and spend time investigating. The internet really has a lot of tools for people to actually try things for free.
Yes.
And learn some technology on their own. I'm a guitar player. I've been playing since I was young. I can't imagine having all those songs on YouTube already done for me, yes, like they are now for this generation, right?
Wow.
So if you if you want to take the time, look up some of these coding websites, or get a subscription on YouTube to a coding website, and just give it a shot.
And you think that the quality subscription on YouTube would be good for a beginner?
Definitely.
Wow.
Definitely a YouTube subscription. They've got free camps, coding for different ages these days. So if you want to sort of learn more about it, you kind of have to try it, just like everything else. And I think that what we see is that let's just take the music business, right?
Yes.
I've got a lot of friends who don't know how good they are at technology. They're cutting records. They're putting songs out. They're putting them on Spotify, and doing a lot in that regard, and don't even know, hey, you can take those skills and get paid for them too, elsewhere. So, there are, I think that what people call a digital divide is less divided than people want to give us credit for.
Okay.
And we just need to start channeling people into ways where they can use these skills that they have to make money.
Now, speaking of the digital divide, what is going to be, you think, the next business disruption? Because at one point people thought it was Uber. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the next business?
I still think it is Uber. I mean,
what?
The pandemic isn't over yet, so
okay.
let's see. But and when I say Uber, I kind of mean the gig economy.
Okay. Yes.
Where being able to work remotely, being able to rent things and not own them.
Yes.
May be the next wave. The Airbnbs of the world.
Okay.
So that may be something that I think will continue to have a bit more legs.
Now, what I see, to use your word, having a lot more legs and being a more disruptive, is platforms similar to Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're going to integrate more technology where you're going to be able to do more things on that visual platform. I really think that's going to be the next level, or the next frontier for business or visual disruption. That's what I think. And I may be wrong. You're certainly smarter than I when it comes to that. But you don't.
No, I think Zoom. And I mean not the actual company, but the technology itself, right? Is something I just spoke of in some regard, where for people to work remotely, we're going to be needing Zooms. For people to be able to sort of not own the house they live in, but rent it and live there, or be as mobile and virtual as we expect the next 10, 20 years to be. I would expect platforms like Zoom to be part of that change. I also think, though, that in terms of disruptive technology, what we see happening from AI, I also think in the marketing world, I also think will go to other aspects of our sort of everyday life to some degree. Okay. So I do think it may not be ready yet, but I do think AI is going to be something that guides us a little bit more aside from just marketing analytics.
About 3 weeks ago, I saw on 60 Minutes, right? Because of the pandemic, I can't remember the platform. I'm not sure if it was Facebook, but someone created they wanted to get married, right? And so they got married. They invited 50 of their guests, but the wedding was virtual, but they had their own avatars, but it was at this English castle. Mm-hmm. And I think the cost was something like $1,500 versus like $150,000 if they had to take everybody there and to rent that. I was like, that was crazy. So I think, again, that might be another frontier where you're going to see a lot of participation. What's this thing called? NFT?
So you mean the metaverse to some degree, right?
Like the metaverse, yes.
Right, the metaverse. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I've watched the metaverse continue to get remarketed.
Yes.
What used to be called Second Life, or virtual life or what have you is now the metaverse, right?
Yes.
But to some degree, with each new rendition, it's gotten a bit better. And
Yes.
I do see that there are people definitely interested in. I can tell you that the investing world is pushing this concept.
Okay.
How far it goes, I don't know, but there are
Gotcha.
definitely hedge funds and institutional funds who are pushing companies that are creating that technology. So we'll have to see how that pans out. I for the next couple of years, however, I do see that there's going to be demand to do things that are not virtual. Expect people to want to go on a cruise soon
Yes.
and to want to go and do some old school stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
go to Disney.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And go to have a cigar
Yeah.
in a public place with people again, right? Like we
Absolutely.
used to do, right?
And I still do on my porch. And you are,
Okay.
and listen, you're always welcome to come by, right?
All right, Bo.
So now, going back to your first business, which was DJing, do you see where you could have another iteration of that? Say, for example, the DJ could be remote, but through virtual, some type of virtual metaverse, the people are at the wedding dancing to your DJ. Do you see something like that happening?
I mean, there's always possibilities,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I can't say that, and what we are saying now, what we laugh about now, probably will be a reality, maybe, in the not too far away future.
Is that 5 years? Is that 10 years?
I as an economist, I was told never to put a timeline on a prediction.
Okay.
So I just think it's going to happen. I just can't tell you when.
Got you.
And for the most part, there are people who kind of push back and say, hey, is this healthy? That we have people participating in sort of this kind of second world, and what is there anything harmful about that? So those are things that we should kind of keep on the forefront as well.
Now, speaking of harmful, does that mean that the federal government, in terms of regulation, has to catch up as to why we're slowing it down, or how do we regulate that, or can we regulate that?
Yeah, I'm not much for regulating, and I'm not one for mandating things of any kind. So, but for the most part, there are social media. Facebook, for example, even has some has been found to have some negative effects on younger people, and how that's curbed and curtailed. I'll leave that for people with a bit more pay grade to decide. But I know what I'm doing in my house.
Yeah.
And I don't know what others. I can't recommend what others should do. But the metaverse is going to have that same issue, and probably to the nth degree. Back to the question of virtual DJing. I mean, I started the platform because I saw a glut in the market. When I started the college DJ platform, it was because at that time, the record labels were still sending like vinyl copies.
Okay.
And the ability for people to file share wasn't going to be stopped. And so that was sort of what I saw happening, and that's what I kind of positioned myself for. And right now, I mean, people are doing virtual DJing. People are doing, DJing where people have headphones and are listening to different types of music in the same place, right? So, there are different ways that will resurface again, but I'm going to stay busy on some other things, and maybe let some of these younger guys and gals take care of that stuff.
Now, it's so interesting, and I have to name drop, and I love the irony. Are you familiar with Daryl Frater?
I'm not, maybe, I'm not sure.
So he's he has his MBA at the College of New Jersey, just got married. Shout out to Daryl and his lovely wife. He started a DJing business called In the Club.
Mm-hmm.
And he does virtual DJing for DJs around the world. I would love to put you two together, and man, I would love to be the fly on the wall, or perhaps with my podcasting equipment in the room,
Well, I hear you.
To hear how you guys facilitate, because that'd be so crazy to see you guys from the College of New Jersey, similar background, just come together and work it out, and then all of it could be carried live from the Entrepreneur Enclave at that time, because you're going to help me with my technology.
All right, put me through. Put me in touch.
Yeah, I'm going to put you in touch with them. But listen, Dr. Celestine, you have been fantastic. Before I close, let me just give you the floor. Is there any words of encouragement you want to give our young folks? Is there any words of encouragement you want to give entrepreneurs in general as to what they need to do to adhere to their passionate vision?
Do not follow others. Be a leader. Be a leader, and in that capacity, make sure that you're cognizant of what it takes to be a leader, and that is to think different and to actually be different, to not do what the rest of the crowd is doing, to not follow the narrative. That's the only way to be a good entrepreneur, is to, when 10 people in the room are doing one thing, you be the 11th person doing something different.
I love that, but I also got to ask this question. So if the industry standard says 10 people are doing this, you still agree that the 11th person should still do something different?
That's right. And perhaps they're not, the first 10 aren't doing it as well.
Yes.
And you're going to be the person that does it the best.
I love it.
That really stems from, that sort of free flowing ability to, think differently. And when you do that, things come to you differently.
Yes.
And you begin to have a clarity that others just don't have. Things become illuminated that others can't see.
The reason why I asked that question, and that strikes a chord with me, is because since I've done the podcasting, I've always heard about the industry standard. So the industry standard is the podcast length should be 35 to 45 minutes. If you're doing, you should only do one podcast a week. And so I'm saying I want to do different. So I've had a few podcast interviews where I've gone 55 minutes, I've gone 75 minutes, right? And surprisingly, when I've gone to 75 minutes and then 94 minutes, the response has been greater than 35 minutes, because they said they can really feel the energy and the consistency of the person telling the story. It wasn't a part one, a part two, part three. So I thank you for sharing that with me about doing something different, going against the grain, not being part of the industry standard. Thank you.
Pleasure's mine.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share for the listening audience? Anything new we should be on the lookout coming from you that we should want to support?
No, I want to take a moment to thank you. I mean, I've watched you do this
Yes.
time and time again. I've watched you become interested in other people and the younger generation, and you've lent yourself to the community time and time again. So, I just want to give kudos to you for doing what you're doing. And, Godspeed continuing to do it.
Thank you, brother. I'm humbled by your kind words. But Doc, you are the man of the hour. So I want to say thank you for allowing me to tap into your brain, your understanding, and thank you for being a part of this platform. And let's stay connected.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Talk to you, brother. Peace now.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes another episode of the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.